stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Check this. I need to check.
Mr. Young is excused. Van Portfleet.
Here.
Mr. Smith is excused.
Siri.
Sable is absent. Mr. Reard.
Here.
Mr. Lamb.
Here.
Mr. Laurent.
Here.
Mr. Cummins.
Present.
Mr. Zenyak.
Present.
There is a quorum.
Okay, with that, I need a motion to approve the agenda. Moved. Second. Supported. All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Approval of the minutes from the, let's see, this would be the regular meeting, which would be May 2nd of 2022. We have a motion?
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Then the special meeting we had on May 16th, 22. Approved. Supported.
I support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Any public comments on non-agenda items? Okay. And so we'll move on to new business. Business A is the Starboard Redevelopment, PUD eligibility review, number 1. Laura?
Thank you. I have a presentation if I could just approach the podium.
You know, it turned on and then it looks like it shut off. Projector's on.
Are you plugging it there? Do not touch a remote when I touch it.
There you go. All's there.
Do you see it? No.
There we go.
There it goes.
Oh,
There it goes.
okay. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so the planned unit development, the PUD proposal before you this evening, is a request for eligibility. So this is the first step in the PUD consideration process. The project is called the Starboard. It consists of a number of parcels along Broadway and Flint and Lake that total just under 3 acres. The project consists of several residential areas. This includes the peninsula and the landings. As a PUD proposal, there are several tenets that the zoning ordinance requires be met. The first is that the project consists of contiguous land area. This standard is met. You can see in the red outline the various parcels that encompass this development. And even though they are not specifically adjacent to one another, they are separated by a public or private street. The second tenet in the PUD eligibility is that there is a recognizable benefit provided to the community. We do feel that out of these 5 benefits, that being feature preservation, mixed use, open space, mitigation, and redevelopment, that at least 3 are satisfied with the potential to satisfy all 5 of these elements. So that would be mixed use, the open space recreation, and redevelopment. We find as providing a benefit that would unlikely to be achieved under conventional redevelopment. The first, benefit feature preservation. The site has limited natural features to preserve, no existing wetlands. However, we do note that there might be an opportunity for some scenic vistas. The view shed of the lake is important it's important for all the community to enjoy, especially with the adjacency to Greens Park. So this is one item that we feel could be further massaged during the development review process. The second potential benefit, mixed use, we do feel that this is met. The project provides for a number of market rate residential units with a variety of unit types within the project itself. So there's apartments, townhouses, and more cottage style like homes. There's also an opportunity for live-work units in building number 5. However, I think it's important to note that the frontage along Broadway is intended for mixed use, and there is a lack of retail or commercial space along that frontage. They are proposing to maintain the snack shop on the lake. And this is the intent of the mixed-use district from the zoning ordinance. This applies to that Broadway fronting piece where it states that such land should be developed to promote compatible combinations of commercial, office, service, and residential development. So that is one area for the commission to consider in this PUD eligibility. The third potential benefit is open space. The total usable green space has not been identified on the most current site plan that we reviewed. But the applicant has indicated that they are providing seasonal access to the boat launch for all lake residents. They're also proposing a common pool and outdoor area adjacent to Building 1. And this is one area that we feel there's additional opportunity for common space. This could take the form of streetscape treatments, both along Flint and along Broadway. That could include even an art installation at the corner. With the reconfiguration of the roadway, there's an opportunity for a much more defined treatment at that intersection. The fourth potential benefit is mitigation. So this would be opportunities for introducing green infrastructure. There's a number of treatments that the zoning ordinance prescribes: rain gardens, bioswales, native plantings, EV stations. We also think that with some tweaking of the site through the development process, there's an opportunity to reduce some of that impervious surface. Lastly, the fifth potential benefit of redevelopment. This is probably the largest impact or the largest benefit that we feel the project offers. While many of the existing buildings will not be maintained on the site, they are proposing to reorient Flint and Lake Street, which under traditional redevelopment would likely not occur. And the result of that roadway orientation will provide for a safer vehicular and pedestrian circulation system. So the third PUD eligibility requirement is development impact. The applicant is proposing 48 dwelling units total on the site. Under the planned unit development ordinance, 43 dwelling units are permitted with an additional density bonus up to 21 units. So that would be a maximum of 64 dwelling units, and the applicant is proposing 49 at this time. Another criteria is to further the village's adopted master plan. This site is master planned, a number of different uses, largely mixed use transitional, which is intended to support a mixture of neighborhood commercial and residential uses, and to prioritize missing middle housing, which they are offering a variety of housing types. Since the site is adjacent to Greens Park, there's also an opportunity for some improvements and connections with that public space, and could be seen as a catalytic project for the village. And this is a close-up of the future land use map in this area. You can see the purple is the transition mixed-use area. The last eligibility criteria for the PUD is to have unified control. This standard is met. So with those 5 items being satisfied, we are recommending that the Planning Commission recommend approval to Village Council for their consideration at a future meeting. This recommendation does not approve the site plan. That still needs, much further massaging and deliberation and consideration. This is mainly to approve the proposed uses. So again, that commercial component along South Broadway is an important discussion this evening. And our recommendation is provided in the packet, sample motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Commissioners, some discussion? Do we have, I'm sorry, would you like to make your
Thank
proposal
you.
or question? Sure.
Dominic Mosheri, thank you for the warm welcome to the Village of Lake Orion. We're very excited to participate with the historical redevelopment of the area. We are very attuned with bringing back some of the historical architectural elements of yesteryear into 5 different housing type and components. A couple things that things are very fluid, and this is eligibility, so we're not going to get too deep into the site plan issues, but there's something that's very important in regards to MDOT along Broadway, south of Flint Street and where Lake Street, where they all combine. MDOT has come back and requested that there be no curb cuts whatsoever along Broadway. So the entire area in front, if you could go to the board, Dominic. Is it possible that, Laura, you could use your mouse? Oh, they do have the update? Okay. It's entirely all green space now along Broadway. But what's unique is that we have design in the architecture, which is, we'll get into later meetings, is that the lower face of the building can be lifted, and that will be a park area, it's like an extension of Greens Park. And also, those can be rolled up for festives, in the garage area. It can be converted as part of the live-work components within having artisan crafts and stuff like that. There may be 1 or 2 times a year for an art fair or something along that celebrates and connects the entire Broadway street in the Greens Park. The boardwalk along what we call the landings, and that's along most of the marina. If you could point to that, Dominic, that would help. That boardwalk is meant to be for the public. No, the boardwalk there, right across, all the way across the landings. Go east-west, there you go, just east-west. There you go, thank you. And those live-work units, the first floor on the boardwalk, will have rather large French doors, and those again for artisan, what we call the artisan lofts, live work, and along the boardwalk can be used for commerce, and as far as the B2 benefits, as Laura brought out, that might be seemingly lacking, but we do meet clearly 3 of the 5. I believe we meet 5 of the 5. And the reason for we meet 5 of the 5 is there is some preservation. The old boathouse that is currently there will be restored. And some of the other structures, the snack shop will be restored. Majority of it will be raised, but there is some preservation. Aside of that, if I may indulge for about 3 minutes, if I may, Mr. Chairman, is that okay? Thank you. Public safety is first and foremost. That's where we started with this whole concept for Starboard. In the public safety regarding Flint Street, Lake Street, and Broadway, the realignment, and removing the dangerous intersections that's there. So we can conform and agree with MDOT's conclusion there, together with the public safety offices of the village, and have realigned a new entrance off of Flint Street into Lake Street, which Lake Street will remain a public road, and the new entry off of Flint Street will be public. We'll dedicate that as a public street coming down south off of Flint Street. There Along with the public safety, there's a permanent part of what we get to further into the site plan, and motions will be made in agreements with the village, is have 2 permanent public safety docks. I understand there's a fireboat and a police boat, whether it's the county or the village controlled, either way, but there'll be 2 dedicated slips and parking for the public safety boats as part of our plan. In addition, we have raised the parking underneath the main starboard building along Broadway. We'll have 14-foot ceilings, so all safety vehicles can drive underneath there and get the greenways parked. So when we get deeper into the site plan, if you could just show how that transposes, thank you. Vanna White over here, you are beautiful. We'll come right down, and there'll be an access into Greens Park, 14-foot clear ceilings for public safety vehicles to get also to the dock. Along with public safety and the realignments and those things I mentioned, but we have water quality, and water quality is essential. And that's something that is lacking, that has no filtration going into Lake Orion. All the impervious surfaces just go and sheet flow into the lake without being caught or contained. We're going to reconstruct that and re-engineer that, so all the stormwater treatment, all the stormwater will be treated before entering into Lake Orion. Some of the things that we're preserving is the gas pump. There's a concern that what's going on with the gas pump will be rebuilt, restored. It will be open for the public use. And the docks themselves, we're not increasing any docks. And the docks will be used for the exclusive use of the residents of the starboard community. So we're going to be reducing what I call the traffic within the lake. We're not excluding, we're inclusive, but at the same time, there's a calming effect. There's all these fears of the unknown. There's going to be all this increased traffic regarding the starboard community. Actually, there'll be a decrease in the traffic, and the ramp will be allowed to be used for all residents of the lake. So that the ramp will still be open seasonally to bring your boat in at the beginning of the season, take out, but we're not going to have daily rentals. We're not going to have daily boats coming in and out of the starboard as you would a traditional boat slip, so that will not be occurring. Architectural harmony is very important to what we have in housing choices. We have 5 different housing choices within the community with the live-work combinations, the starboard building, and also what the plan that you may have, and the one that was on the screen showed the pool being outside the building. We actually put the pool on what would be level 2 above the parking, so it's self-contained, and we have a much larger green space that's going to be maintained between the building and the boat docks, which is very important. I have nothing else to add other than to be redundant. The open space with the new plan, again, this is a qualification, but we had 26% on the plan that was originally submitted, but since the comments from MDOT and the preservation of the green space along Broadway, we now have over 30% of open space of the plan. So of the how many acres, Laura?
2.9.
2.9, almost 3. So there is almost a 1 acre of open space in total. I have the architect Dominic Tringali, project manager, my nephew Dominic, Francis Mosheri, Matt Swanitz, who is our chief planner, and our chief engineer, Nancy Standish. If there's any questions that may arise, I'd rather them go to my professional staff, and very confident in our team that we've been doing some world-class and award-winning communities throughout the region, and this has been the core team for several decades. I see there's many residents here, and sure their concerns will be voiced, and if there's some concerns they have, I'm sure we could meet them. The one thing that there is going to be, and that is change. And that's what we are promoting, but positive change, and not change just for change's sakes. So again, if the residents that are in favor or have questions would like to hear their concerns or their compliments, so we can move forward and take the next stage with your recommendation to the Village Council for the PUD qualification. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioners?
Yeah, I have a question for Tringali. Tringali?
You can bring your
I have a
mics down.
question for Mr. Tringali. Whichever
This is
one.
the architect, Dominic Valley's the
I
architect.
want the architect.
Okay.
So I have a question regarding the mix of the units that are in here.
Yep.
Can you tell me how many one-bedroom, two-bedroom, and studios we have?
So the unit mix is, what we feel is good for not only market, but just the development itself. So when you look at the large building, there's 23 units. That'll be basically 2 and 3 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, as well as a few 1 bedrooms in this one. So there's 23 units per year. On the landings, up here, these units along Flint Street are going to be unique because we're revamping Flint Street with the frontage units. All of these units, as well as these units and here, are basically 1-bedroom units with a garage, and then you go up the floor, and you have your living space, and then you go up the floor to the bed. So these are basically all 1-bedroom units in this area through here. This is also where we feel the mixed use comes into play, because these garages could be multi-purpose, someone could sell things, out of there, it could be a workshop, it could be a lot of variety of things. So we haven't fully developed those, but that's kind of the concept. It's kind of like a harbor view. Smaller units, you got me up here. So we have some elevation concepts too that we're up to the next set to show you. And then as you move farther down through here, we have 2 1-bedroom units here, and then these units here are 2-bedroom units and 3-bedroom units along here, which stack on top of each other. So from the lake, you're really going to have a 1.5-story look. So it won't be, because that's basically about a 40-foot drop on the hill through there. So we're actually designing those right into the hill. It'll be a 1-bedroom unit underneath and then a 2 or 3-bedroom unit above. So that's kind of the mix, and it's not finalized yet, but the footprint is working with this now. I can have a list for us next time it comes from.
At the site plan stage, there'll be a specific breakdown for each unit type, square footage, et cetera. So we have that works in progress, and we didn't want to get too deep in the weeds on that because this is eligibility for the PUD. But majority, we have a big, probably even split between 2 and 3 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms, which gives a housing choices and doesn't make it exclusionary, but makes it inclusion. And where other future communities further south, those are all 2s and 3 bedrooms. There are only, I think, a handful of 5, maybe 1-bedroom carriage houses. So this is different than the other communities. Each one has its unique characteristics.
Answer your question?
It does answer my question. I have one other question. We have a property line that shows that the property is described as being out into Lake Orion. My question is, are you utilizing the area over the water in that 2.9 acres of buildable land that we have?
Engineering.
Let me hear from Giffords and Webster.
What area? Sorry.
On the plan that you show, you're with Giffords and Webster?
This area here?
Yes, there's an area right there. You've got a line that's running out at the end of that dock.
Yeah, that is all part of that. So yes, that area is being utilized.
So is that water area included in the 2.9 acres? Can you tell me how much acreage that is that's lying over the water that's not buildable?
Yeah, I believe it is 3rd to 4th estimate. 3rd to 4th estimate.
And 10,000 feet or so. Thank you very much.
Anything else?
No, it's good for right now.
I have a question. Mr. Tringali,
Yes.
up on Flint Street, when I looked at the renderings, there's porch area out on the front of the house.
Correct.
And when I was trying to determine what the setbacks may be up there,
Yes.
it was difficult for me to try to figure out, what do you have, like a 2-foot little porch there with 2-foot setback, or what is it exactly?
Yeah, basically, the houses are approximately 10 feet
Okay,
And then the porch is going to approach into that 10 feet, about 5 feet, and then there may be some steps coming up there to the sidewalk. So that's kind of what we have established as of now.
okay. And tonight, though, it's PUD eligibility, not site plan.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then we're finalizing all that kind of, so the next meeting, we'll have some sections, and show you a little bit more what we're doing for this.
Chairman, I have a few additional comments.
Please.
So these two buildings on Flint Street that Mr. Van Forfleet referred to, the current setback for the village single family is 25 feet, which lines up with the existing community running west all the way to the lake. So when we set these back at 5 feet to the porches and 10 feet to the building, we're half the distance and encroaching way out into the street. That's going to change the character of that neighborhood significantly by introducing these two fairly large three-story buildings that are only going to sit 10 feet off the sidewalk when everything in this community has a 25-foot setback.
And now, keep in mind, those are only going to be 2 stories.
Yes, they're going
Because
to,
the
they
garage
look
is underneath.
three.
Well, they slope, so the garage will be underneath. So it's 3 stories on the back and 2 stories on the front.
Yes, except that the grade change here on the surveys, this grade only changes from the far east of about 2 feet and at the most on the back about 4.5 to 5 feet. So that story is going to be approximately 9 to 10 feet. So you will have every bit of at least 2.5 stories at the west end and very close to 3 stories at the east end that will project up and then forward of all these homes. And then the buildings on the back, these are also full story, what you call the landings on the dock.
Yeah, these are going to be full 3 stories. These are full 3 stories.
And how far are those off of the water? Our current setback is either 20 or 25 feet on the lake side.
25 on the right.
So those are all 25-foot
No,
setback?
your current setback is 25. Those are closer than that. They vary, obviously, as they go. So they're going to be anywhere from, once again, 15 to 10. So we are approaching into that setback. There's a few existing buildings there, so we're about the same distance that those existing buildings are currently.
And you-
So we're kind of keeping that as our guide.
Right, you understand that some of those buildings are on pilings and that the lake is actually under probably a third of those buildings? They're not sitting on dry land right there.
We have some work to do. I gave those some footing
Right.
foundations.
But the main thing is that,
These are all along the boardwalk edge being really rebuilt, so these buildings here are all on the lake edge, and the raising these buildings are a little back. So, yeah, you understand that clearly.
but there are no houses that are being able to be built or any structures on the lake today that are less than 25 feet from the water's edge.
We're some community with some of that flexibility,
I understand that, whether we,
but not guarantees, no guarantees.
but it's what makes the difference between getting a PUD and not getting a PUD. PUDs aren't just given, you just don't get them. You have to show that there's a need, you got to show that you qualify, and you got to show that there's an advantage. I'm not sure we got an advantage if we're going to reduce our setbacks that we have around the other 820 homes that are on the lake, and you're going to reduce that setback, in some cases more than half, in other cases at least 10 feet less than anywhere else on the lake.
We will do the math of what currently exists that is at the lake's edge, and then what are additional encroachments, so we can do the math right now. So what the current conditions with the encroachment that are 0 setback to the water's edge, and then what our proposal is for the additional linear feet, and we'll figure that out before this meeting is over, give you some statistics on it. But do you understand the concern in your question? There is significant benefits in regards to the realignment of public safety. Water quality is essential right now. Everything's sheet going into the lake, even including the gas pumps. There's no grease traps or anything that requires the water quality. And the engineering concerns for water quality, public safety, If this, now the curb cut is removed and the encroachments into these setbacks, and it's the overall picture, you do realize there are things that do not meet current ordinance, but that's community flexibility, which pertains to. It gives the planning commission and the council determines whether the benefits outweigh those encroachments into your ordinance. So there's a balancing act. You have to look at what are the benefits to obtain some of these variances that we see.
Yes.
We believe that the benefits outweigh those concerns because of the existing conditions and also the housing choice benefits. There's other things mentioned earlier that we do in our listening to those.
Right, and these buildings along the lake here, this is corridor commercial in the future land use plan. So you could build this under the corridor commercial. You can build all of this under the traditional. You can build this section under the traditional. The only thing that you can't do is you can't build, you'd have to build this building on Flint Street to the single family and this stuff on the peninsula to the lakefront setbacks. So,
In the redevelopment of the waterway, if we were to change the building, and I would commit the site plan, PennDOT is cutting off that curb. That's over. There's emails that we received to Mr. Young, and I believe Mr. Van Corkley, and also the planner is receiving conversations with them. So the idea is that this will maintain a viable commercial corner in its current zoning. Is not going towards recovering that off. And this intersection is so dangerous, and us fixing that, we believe flexibility and improvements to the harmony of the intersection. We will look at mitigating and come at the site plan along Front Street, and so we can slide that back. We attempted a two-car parking behind all the garages. We might be able to reshift some of that parking and behind the house, existing home, if what we're planning on doing, and pull some of that further back.
the other thing that I had a concern on is, you want to reuse that boat dock, but you may or may not, I don't know how familiar you were with the operation of this marina, but Scott Campbell put all the boats primarily in and out of this boat dock with forklift so that he can maneuver in here. It's a very tight area. It doesn't have much length. It's very difficult to maneuver and put a boat down that launch from a truck or a car. It's almost impossible. You have to use a forklift.
We are with it, at least with the access point.
Do you have a snack building out here? Are you planning to run a convenience store out here?
There's a gas for the residents that are using gas for vehicles, and they need gas, soda and snacks, and there's no foods that are being sold.
Robert?
I just want to ask the planner, that 25-foot setback that we have from the lake's edge, is that something that the board actually has the power to adjust, or is that something kind of set in stone?
As a planned unit development, the village does have flexibility with some dimensional standards. I think, as the applicant stated, there are ways to massage the site plan so that they could come into much closer compliance with the set zoning standards, but a PUD is intended to be a flexible tool in that respect.
Mr. Tringali, talking about setbacks up there on Broadway and the westerlymost building, which is the farthest to the left on the landings, to the adjacent property owner there, what would that setback be, just out of curiosity?
Where are we at?
Right there.
Right here? Yeah, that is,
8 foot.
no, that's about 10 foot. 8.5.
Thank you.
This plan, as drawn, requires the removal of the first house on Flint Street, correct? And the vacant lot associated with it. And it also removes the home the 120-year old home that's up on top of that building.
Correct.
Any other questions?
I'd like to hear the public comments before making more.
Would you like to get some public comments, please?
Good evening, Tom DiAugustino. Been a resident since 2005, not as long as some. The Orion Marine has been vacant for a number of years. We all know the struggles that the Campbells have had trying to move that property. Tommy's came in and they were going to do what we thought would be a great barrel-back restaurant and new development. My understanding, and it could be wrong, but the environmental issues and others made that an unfeasible project for them. The idea of an individual developer coming in and buying that property to build single-family homes doesn't seem like a likely prospect to me. The cost of demolition, the cost of redeveloping the roads, the cost of remediating whatever environmental issues are out there make it significantly unlikely. If we're going to take care of that, what has now become a blight, the building is falling apart and becoming an eyesore in that corner, we're going to need a development and a developer that can come in and provide the financial wherewithal, the experience, the background, the expertise to do it as a single project. My understanding, that's the purpose of the PUD. There is flexibility. Yeah, it would be great to be able to put in 10 single-family homes in there and maintain all of the setbacks and all the other things that go along with it. But this provides a new level of alternative living in the community. It's not a condominium. It's not a single-family home. It provides those who would like to be on the lake with the opportunity to be on the lake without having to come up with the significant cost nowadays that it takes to build a home or to buy a home on this lake. So I think those are some of the other considerations that should be viewed in terms of whether this is a way to go forward. I think if there were a developer out there willing to put single-family homes out there, we would have heard from them by now.
Thank you. All right, any other comments?
Hello, my name is Timo Nicolau. I live, as a matter of fact, just finished building a house at the dead end of Flint Street, right on the lake. And the place is somewhat becoming an eyesore. And I know it takes time to sell a property and renovate it and do things and abide by all the rules and regulations that we have. I don't want to say I don't care what's there, but the organization, excuse me, most area organizations that are looking at doing it does nothing but top-notch. They abide by the rules, they do the rules, they work with the community, they work with the people. In total disclosure, I must say, they built my house 20 years ago in excuse me, Rochester. And any community that they built in, I'm sure you know it, it becomes a relic in that community. And this is a really good opportunity for Lake Orion to make a statement, a beautiful statement. As I said, and anyone that's going to maintain it and back it all up is that organization. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment?
My name's Glenn Lucas, 392 Bellevue, since 1989, and just wanted to say that I'm in favor of the project. I've known the Sherry family for a long time. I've seen the Blossom concept. I've seen what they've done there. Really did a beautiful job with it. And we have an eyesore on our hands. We have boats out there. When the Scott family owned it, those people didn't know what they were doing. It was dangerous out there. People were irresponsible, and I'm glad to see they're going to have gas stocks and not have boat rentals. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, thank you. Commissioners, discussion? Commissioner Land?
Mr. Chair,
Oh, I'm sorry.
would you like me to read the letter?
Oh, yes, would you
into the
please? This
record?
is probably a good time for that.
Okay. To Joe Young and my fellow commissioners, my family and I have been in Lake Orion for 20 years. We have supported and donated to many events and charities. My son Anthony, God bless his soul, sat on the DDA and was very instrumental in the community. My wife and daughter also were on the DDA. We own the Oat Soda building and Valentino's building. They were a mess when we purchased them, but we restored them, and I believe it's because of us the downtown has come to life. We pay $31,000 a year in taxes on our house, plus additional $30,000 on our other properties in the village of Lake Orion. The Mosheris offer us a 15-foot wide driveway on the south side of our lot, but then came back and said, we can't give it to you, but you can use it. We need it for density. But when we are done building, we will give it to you. So think about this. I'm sitting on the Planning Commission, and I am knowingly going to approve the development based on my driveway as density. But in 2 years, when they're done building, they will give it to us. I'm not sure what the ramifications are for a commissioner being dishonest, but I am not interested in finding out. Also, Steve Draco's office is right next to the south drive they offered us. There are 5 beautiful 30-foot evergreens that would need to be removed. He was not happy about that, and neither are we. I have made other offers to them with zero response. This has been done through my attorney. These people do not negotiate, they want to dictate. I received a threatening letter from the property owner's attorney with the CC to Dominic Mosheri. The Mosheris do not own any of these properties right now, but they think they can push their weight around. I used to respect them as a builder of beautiful homes. Maybe that was a different generation. I am against rentals being built on the lake. I have talked to my neighbors' people on Park Island who don't want apartments on the lake. Mosheris don't care about Lake Orion. They have given nothing to Lake Orion, and they don't care how they muck it up. It's only greed. If they want to build houses or condos, I'm okay with that as long as they don't block us in. I hope my fellow planners will see that allowing this project is not good for Lake Orion. I had a conversation with Mosheris a few weeks ago, and the uncle, I think his name is Dominic also, he tells me, you're going to love what we're going to do for you. He is an arrogant and dirty dealer. As I said, these people dictate, not negotiate. Lake Orion has come a long way in the last 20 years, and we don't need these types of builders coming here and demanding their way. Robert Reard.
What Mr. Reard has just put into this record is defamatory. He should know better than to call somebody a criminal, and it's outrageous that a member of this planning commission would get up here.
Stephen, please don't speak on my behalf. This is unrelated to the question at hand. This is for the Starboard community, and I'll just make this one comment. There is a 12-foot easement that will be maintained and not disrupted or changed by 1 inch to the access to the Reard's home. I will keep it at that, and it's improper to be in the dais and the dialogue. If he wants to speak in the audience and let it read in the record, I formally request that Mr. Reard be removed from the dais because this letter is improper, as it states, to be served, Mr. Chairman. So at the same time, I do respect their concerns. We will be a good neighbor and are a good neighbor. And I am not a bully. And it is this generation that has got the reputation. It's not a former generation. And it seemed to be signed by Mr. Robert Reard, not his spouse. So I'm rather confused. So I didn't expect this. This is very unexpected. At the same time, but thank you. So I want to stay on the matter focused on hand, and that is Starboard's eligibility to be recommended to the council considered for eligibility. And that's the question at hand, whether this a recommendation, up or down, can be moved on to the village council. And then after the eligibility is there, then we could go then look at the site plan concerns. Very clearly, the professional planner from McKenna Associates, Laura, has gone through the guidelines, and her recommendation is that we do meet the criteria for PUD consideration. She is the professional, she knows the ordinance as well as you do, and that you take her recommendation. She's not a decision maker and makes the recommendation directly to the council. But I take it as great value of her professional report and also her constructive criticism to our plan, and we look forward to your constructive criticism on our plan, constructive. And we will listen, make changes accordingly, but I will not tolerate things that are irrelevant to the matter at hand and to be skewed in this fashion. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I don't, this should not be debated, because if he's up there going to ready to debate, he must be taken off the dais. I do know the Robert's Rules of Orders, and those is concerned in not being a bully. I just happen to know the law. Thank you.
I want you to know that I'm not your enemy. I'm probably one of the easiest guys on this board, okay? I like the development. Yeah, I don't like rentals. I wish you would make them condos. I'd be the first one behind this all the way. I want you to know I'm not your enemy. What I'm trying to say is, I'll work with you. You got to work with me. And I don't like, what you did is not right. And I just think everybody, should know that, hey, work with us, negotiate with us, work with this board, negotiate with this board. We're not hard to get along with. But if you're going to do demands, that's not right.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Lamb, you were going to, question? Question, sure.
Yeah. Oh, a couple questions. One is the proposed paved access into the park. I'm just going to give you my opinions. I have a few opinions, and I live in this neighborhood, so I traverse the streets regularly, so I have a lot of very opinionated neighbors, and a lot of them have lived here for 100 years or so, and they're always talking to me. So I don't really see a big need for a proposed EMS access to the park. I think the park plan actually was going to have a pavilion in that area, so I think that's something on the plan that I don't think needed. There was a question raised routinely about how many docks and what use the docks would be. The general opinion of my neighbors, close to 100 of them, are that there's too many boats on the lake and too many docks. So they are encouraged to know this is going to be private docks for the residents of the development, not commercial docks for rental for more boats on the lake. As far as the private, I reiterate the private boat launch should remain private. I see no benefit to our community. These are my personal comments, nothing, and then just from my first review of the formally submitted plan, I see no reason to encourage anyone else to use this boat ramp. We've got public access boat ramps. We have plenty of boats on the lake. We have a public launch. It'd be nice just to keep this in private. The plans look nice. The drawings are beautiful. However, I think in the Planning Commission we talked about one time putting a sign up on the street in front of these projects that said proposed development, call so-and-so. I'm not sure the neighbors on the street are aware of the close proximity of the buildings on Flint Street that are proposed to the street. I really agree they could potentially affect the character of the street, Flint Street itself. I mean, it's an old street with open porches and old homes that have been rehabilitated and renovated and burned and fallen down and been rehabilitated. So I think that's a real concern, is the setbacks on Flint Street. As I said, the lakefront setbacks also are a concern to the lake. We've had many BZA, very many requests for encroachments, and it's been a bitter battle with the community. So this is also an area that would probably, I would think, needs to be addressed with some concern. There's great support for the gas pumps. Great support. Many of the people have been just anxious. They want the gas on the lake. They don't want to haul 5-gallon cans to the lake. That's a big problem. They want gas pumps on the lake. So that seems to have a lot of support on the street. And then on to my last question is the density. I didn't see on this plan a differentiation between where the current residential zoning is and where the mixed use zoning is, so I could clearly see which sections are asking for a special. I know where they are, but they're not on the plan. So I've said in the last couple of meetings that I wouldn't vote for any PUDs that were asking for density increases, because I thought that on the lake our 15 units per acre was adequate. And we had several meetings on that. And so I recalculated if the residential zoning were rezoned to MU or upper use, the total density under just the 15 units per acre would be about 43 and a half units, where the PUD is requesting 50.75 units. So that, in my mind, that makes it look more reasonable instead of asking for the 1.5 blah, blah, blah. So you're only asking, because I assumed that if this didn't go, you would ask to rezone the residential to a multiple, and then we go through the rezoning. And so you're only really asking for about 6 or 7 more units with your PUD. But like I said, with the setback issues, I'm thinking we may be pushing. And then the question was raised about the use of submerged aqueous lands in the density calculations, whether that's appropriate or not. Since I haven't ever read anything in any of our ordinance regarding that, I have no knowledge as to what the answer to that question is. Is it appropriate to use the submerged lands in the density calculation?
There's a conflict in the zoning ordinance between 2 different sections, which speaks to the counting of submerged lands that the village attorney is looking at. However, for this project, the applicant would need to provide the revised calculation to show the exclusion of that 1/3 of an acre or 4/10 of an acre. But it does seem like even with that, they would still be under the maximum allowable density.
Well, it's about 6 units for 4/10 of an acre of submerged land. At 15, it's 6 units, so that would take it down another 6 units from 43.5 to 37 units if we just went with the straight 15 units per acre theory. So that's where I would be starting at when I started asking for my PUD benefits. So I would be looking at that and what benefits the PUD would have. So I see some benefit to the gas pumps, the large benefits. I see benefits to improving the blight, but we really need to be concerned for character of the street, because there are other residents on the street that drive up and down the street every day, and they're concerned about the character of the street. And a lot of people are concerned about having been abused on setback violations for many years by the village. They get upset when they see us just, cleanly sweeping across something. So I got to be careful in my decisions to address the residents' concerns. So, public access, public access. Yeah, the dock and marina use thing I would love to see something proposed for what you're planning to do with the docks. I'm not sure who has jurisdiction over that anymore. And we've talked about having an ordinance about it in the village, but we haven't taken any action yet, I don't think. Those are all my comments.
No, I think they're sensible comments, Mr. Lamb. There's a bonus request regardless, so even if we net it out, and I understand your comments, and there's logic to that, but if I were to reapply the bonus density, I think we would still provide for that, and we can clearly mitigate and adjust. I should say mitigate, because we're the ones that encroach. We bring it back to some distance that would be comfortable with lining up with the current character on Flint Street. I'm all for that. That's not going to present a problem with our plan. I just want to also relay the benefits, though, of those residents that reside off of Flint Street at the intersection where there's the conflicts with Broadway and the current curb cuts with the marina. So we're trying to clean up that those conflicts, but at the same time, we can still implement those concerns of the Planning Commission when we get to the site plan stage. Right now, we're just wondering, are we eligible to qualify for a PUD? You're not approving the density today by any means and what that max density is or what the density request is, but do we qualify for consideration of a PUD to the village council? And then after the village council makes their up or down based on your recommendation, then we come back with a site plan take those matters into concern, redevelop a site plan, then we get through this site plan process. But we can't start the true site plan. We have a site plan, but it's a concept. This is not, what we say, etched in stone by any means, or we're saying that we're inflexible to that. This is conceptual, and there's some things that like came up this morning regarding the no curb cut on Broadway, and there's going to be other things that may come up. But I think the main thing that I want to stress is water quality for the lake, for the community, is I think the overriding benefit, and the at the same time, the housing choices and the public safety. Whether the new boats and old boats and Greenways Park and those things, but there's no, in this location, maybe some other location is possible, but there are a permanent easement in place for the public safety vehicles and access where they can park. And I'm surprised that there is not such a thing. I learned to find out that in the last 30 days that there was not a permanent access or an agreement for that, and that's something that I think is a super overriding concern for those residents that are on the water. Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
1 second. Commissioner Van Portfleet?
You just provided some information that I agree with you about. I believe even if the bottom land in the water is removed from the calculation, that you'll still be able to perform with reasonable density in that project, because I disagree with some of the earlier math, and I trust your consideration. But I think that the access underneath your building over to the park for emergency vehicle is important. I think that that's a great gesture on your part. And then when you talk about the 33% roughly of the green area, I like it.
That actually increases. If you take the bottomlands out, we actually will have like over 40% will be green.
So, and your reputation of a good development, I think as having you to the table with us to work with us on this is a good choice for our community. And I agree, tonight's discussion is HUD eligibility. You are already offering, in a couple of your comments earlier, to work with us on setbacks, to work with us on that density. So it'll be nice to see what you can bring to the table.
Yeah, and working together with the planners and architects and Mr. Cummins' concern, yeah, if those porches are 5 feet, you keep going, then where do we, pretty soon the porches will be in the street. I get it. I have to look at this plan as would I want to live there? And I don't want to be the person that comes to the neighborhood and disrupts the quality of life. I want to better the quality of life to the community, not detract from it. And I believe that I don't believe, I know that we will draw a great benefit to the quality of life of the community, increase the public safety, and we have flexibility in our architectural design, including step backs with the elevations, so things are not so flat and like a vertical wall if we are going to, let's say, for example, if it's 25 feet, for conversation's sake, for lack of my ignorance to the ordinance, and we're asking for possibly 15 feet. Well, am I going to step back that second floor from Flint Street so it doesn't so much encroach? Is that an open porch or a closed porch? What are the considerations there? And architecturally, I think it'll look better with an open porch. And architecturally, I believe it'll look better if we step back that second floor. Will my square footage be reduced? Yes, but those are one-bedroom units anyways. Is that correct, Dominic?
Yes.
Yeah, so all one-bedroom units don't have to be 1,500 square feet. There's nothing wrong if they're 1,200 square feet or 1,100 square feet, because we have an affordability issue in this community. So we also have to be cognizant. We're going to have some large, fancy places too. We're going to have 2,300, 4,000 square foot residences. We have to also be inclusive and not displace our residents. Thank you.
I'm looking at here, and I like the idea of 117 spaces because you're way greater than what's required. I'm just wondering where they're actually at. Are you parking under building 1, or where are all these spaces?
Okay, yes. So the garage spaces are included, so reduce the car pollution. So I believe more than 50% of those parking spaces are covered. So the 117, how many are in garages? 85 are in garages. So there's a significant reduction of car pollution. And of the residences called the landings and on the, both on Flint Street and along the boardwalk, there'll be no living space on those first floors. So that's just garage spaces, but there's our spaces behind the garages and extra parking spaces. So car pollution is a grave concern of mine. You go to some of the most beautiful coastal communities, whether it's eastern seaboard, northern Michigan, or Laguna Beach, and it's nothing but car pollution. And it's cars everywhere in these beautiful estates, and what good are they? And so we wanted to have those cars covered. And the 14-foot ceiling height for the maneuverability of public safety vehicles in the large starboard building and having that green space, I think, is a great improvement to our original plans.
What I guess I'm asking is there only like 8 spaces around building 1 that has 23 units?
Those outdoor spaces are all self-contained inside now. So there are no outdoor spaces. It's called Building 1. Is it the correct building number? Building 1 on the revised plan that I'm going to turn the board if I can, Mr. Reardon.
Sure. So they're parking underneath that building, then?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
So that's all I was asking.
So the height is part of that is having that public safety feature in there and get that emergency ingress. So there's a trade-off, but now with that large green space and no curb cut, we could put some significant trees. We're not shy about putting in large trees. We're the first one to go in there and spade 32-foot pine trees and put in some sizable 5-inch pin oaks with spade trees, provided that there's no utility conflicts. And also, it's almost an extension of Greens Park. It's private space, but it'll be for public use. So we'll put a public easement over that green space. So that's part of the other community benefit that you currently don't have now, or the opportunity.
Can you also tell us what you plan on charging for rent on these?
Well, the rents will vary anywhere from $1,850 to $7,000 a month. Let's call it, that'll be the rare occasion, but let's be realistic. The ones that are on the water will average, the 2 bedrooms will average in the low 4,000s by the time this gets built. By the time you go through the engineering and we get our first occupancy, which is going to be nearly 2 years from now, there'll be rent increases and inflation. You know, our target market is $3,700 on the water, but when you take that forward 2 years from now, what is that with use a 3 to 5% inflation compounded on that, it'll put it slightly over 4,000. But those off the water will be at market rent, but have all the access to the amenities of the starboard community.
Okay. All right, that's really great.
Thank you.
If you can, I'm okay with this development as long as they can actually get through the stages of what they need with the setbacks, the entrances, these other problems. I mean, obviously nobody probably wants to see a marina go, but on the same note, we don't want to see a building sit there empty either. So it seems to me like their rents are high. They're going to actually improve the area. So for me, I'm okay with it.
Commissioner Laurent?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First of all, I like what you did with the street. I like your plan for the water. I think it's a good overall plan to start with. It cleans up an eyesore that who knows when we can get rid of it with someone who's got enough financing to do it. So I'm in favor of this project, and from a personal point of view, I get to look at it all the time. So it's my direct sight line. I think it'll be a great project.
Commissioner Cummings?
I just had a question. With regards to the street reconfiguration, and redirection and the associated stonework, the developer's paying for all that?
100% private funds. We're not seeking any public funds whatsoever, state, federal, or local, village, or the township, or county.
Thank you very much.
And can you say that for a second? Because I have a question. Dock space. I know these are renderings. I know they're, first run. Did I hear you correctly saying that you would not increase dock space?
We're not increasing one dock, one length of dock. The only
Would you
thing
be
we'll be doing.
reducing dock space?
I don't think we're reducing any. There would not be a reduction. There might be a combination for if someone has a larger boat, but not a longer boat. We won't be extending any further into the water for maneuverability. So at most, there may be a removal, because I'm not sure these tritoons, how wide they are compared to the pontoons. I just know they're getting wider, and there might be some more constrictions there.
If this rendering of the starboard is accurate, it looks like there's some loss of docks over there on the peninsula.
On the peninsula is
Yeah,
where I was
there
saying,
looks like
you have
there's
4
maybe
docks.
11
There's
We're
a
not,
couple-
that's the number of docks we're going to have.
10.
Those docks exist.
There are some docks that are rickety,
Right.
and a lot of these docks are not taken out seasonally, so they get beat up by the ice, and they're in great disrepair. So one thing, none of the docks will extend 20 feet, or that's our maximum length. And we do not plan on putting a boardwalk at the peninsula area, so there will not be a boardwalk there. We will leave the natural edge unless there's some erosion, but there hasn't been much erosion there over the years. Thank you for your consideration, and we do like criticism, and we want to put it in the positive sense, and I want to stay focused on the project at hand. In regards to what other things may be personal, in that it's your home, it's your castle, and it's a beautiful castle, by the way. And at the same time, we want to respect all the property owners on the lake, and we believe that we have the ear, we have the architectural taste, we have the integrity of my nephew and my brother Frank, who I didn't introduce, my brother Frank here. He is the master builder. He is the brand. I do the land development and beat my head against the wall with the communities, and then Frank makes the magic happen. Mine's just on paper. He brings it to reality. So I'm glad that my brother Frank is here, because he's going to say, "Are you crazy?" And I'm going to say, "Yes, I am. Let's make it happen." Thank you.
Thank you very much. What discussion?
No, actually, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, you ready?
I'd like to make a motion that based on compliance with section 11.02, qualifying conditions for a plan unit development, PUD, it is recommended by our planners and by this planning commission to consider, to recommend approval of the PUD eligibility to the village council for consideration for the Starboard residential redevelopment project.
Second.
Moved, supported. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
I got to vote no.
I'm sorry?
Nay.
Nay. Sorry.
Nay.
So it was not unanimous. Commissioner Lamb voted nay.
Thank you
Motion
for
still carries.
consideration. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then, would it be preferred that we tweak between now and the village council meeting, or leave things as they are, Mr. Van Portfleet? What's the protocol? Do we make some changes to be considered, or leave it alone?
In my motion, I read that motion differently than what the planner had given us, and I did not include approval of the proposed.
Okay.
I removed that so that flexibility can be brought to the table at the next meeting.
Thank you, and we'll make some improvements each stage of the game. Give me a lot of bites at the apple. Thank you.
Thank you. Three-minute recess?
So moved. 3-minute recess.
Thank you.
So we'll reconvene here at 8:48. So we're moving on now with item 7B, McKenna's Planning and Zoning Monthly Report. Anything other than just to receive and file? Motion to receive and file?
So move.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Any old business that we have? It is discussion revised text amendments to Article 13.
The boathouse.
Laura, do you have something?
Just that back in April and then earlier this year as well, the commission had discussed some changes related to the accessory structures section of the ordinance to clarify floor area and boathouses. Packet page 50 contains the revised language that boathouse must not have a floor area that exceeds 50% of the boathouse area and must not unreasonably impair the view and use of the lake by neighboring property. And then there's just a couple illustrations of what that 50% could look like. At the April meeting, the definition section for a boat hoist and a boathouse was also discussed, just to clarify by calling the boats watercraft, and to specify watercraft accessories could also be enclosed within the boathouse. So there are two proposed text amendments for each one of those sections. For Article 13, that deals with accessory structures, that's on packet page 52. And then the second text amendment is on packet page 57, and that just deals with the definitions in Article 2. So if the commission is satisfied with the proposed changes that are shown in red, the next step would be to do a public hearing notice for the July 5th Planning Commission meeting.
So about floor space, I've been thinking about this, and to me, as long as a boathouse means you're able to park some sort of watercraft in it, I just don't think we should be trying to determine how much floor space a boathouse should have. I just think we need to make sure that it qualifies as a boathouse by using some verbiage that states that you have to be able to, because maybe you're just pulling a canoe in there, I don't know, but, you know, it still have to have some open water space. How about that?
That would be what it has now.
I believe that boathouses should be able to house boats as we know them, and I think that this suggestion of a 50% is a good one. I do have a couple of recommendations, though, because I thought it was a little bit confusing, and I would support this with the possibility of these additional changes and recommendations, such as packet page 52, item 3. It says no detached accessory building may exceed 16 feet in height, but then it calls out 14 throughout here, and I thought that should be maybe 14, but maybe not, because 14 is later on in packet page 54. It may, item 3A, it may not be greater than 14 feet in height. And we've had an issue recently where that was misinterpreted, excuse me. And it became very difficult. It was just a thought. I don't know why you'd want to have an accessory building 16 feet high anyways, whether it's a boathouse or not. And the only other thing I thought about was on packet page 51, and it says boat hoist, boathouse at the very top, an enclosed structure used for sheltering a watercraft. I believe it should say an enclosed single level. So we don't have two stories.
What do you, say that again?
Boathouse, it goes boat hoist, boathouse.
Yeah.
Boathouse, an enclosed structure. I think the addition of single level or single story would be appropriate there. just so you don't have double story down on the lake.
A few of them do, but
Well,
I wouldn't.
But the
currently.
grandfather.
Yeah.
Not over 14 feet, right?
Well, can I clarify the 14 feet, 16-foot thing he said? In ordinance says that the peak highest level of the boathouse can be 14 feet, the peak. In the accessory buildings, I believe the standard, the 16 feet is the
Right.
average height of the high roof to the low. So you have an 8-foot wall, 16 feet, and then you got a peak. So it's the average roof in an accessory structure, but on a boathouse, it's the total height is 14 feet. So it's a much lower standard, correct?
Yeah, we went through a huge amount of discussion when we did these accessory structures years ago and set that 16-foot height, because
I
that
appreciate
accessory
clarification.
structure includes gazebos and all kinds of things.
Sure. So I think that's a good.
Yeah. It was misinterpreted, though, in a recent instance, so.
It refers to going to accept as shown in, I think it's pretty good.
I'm okay with single story, but
I don't think we should change it any more than we have.
It would be hard to put a second story and 14 feet.
What's that?
You'd be surprised. We had a
Hard to
request
put a second story in.
We had
You
a
don't want to go
request
4 or 5?
recently.
Yeah. I just don't think it's worth going back to it anymore. We beat this one up. We've got in there that should not, what's the language? We have the language in that it must not unreasonably impair the view and use of the lake by neighboring properties for a boathouse, but they're going to let a 200-foot long, 3-story building block all the views of everyone on Flint Street and Lake Street. Think about that.
So, if I could, I'd like to make a motion then to let it stand as it stands for the recommendations from the planner.
And to set a public hearing for July 5th?
Yes.
Any support?
I'll support it.
Moved, supported? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Okay. Votes. All right. So we move on to commissioners' comments. We'll go last. Ken, would you like to start, please?
I have none.
None? Commissioner Lamb?
I just want to reiterate that I voted no on the Mosheri project because I'm two things. One, I'm always concerned about these approving the PUD with no plan that's approved. It's a nebulous area, makes me uncomfortable. And two, as I previously stated, I don't think we need any projects in the village that are more than 15 units per acre, period. So I'm pretty sure they're going to get under that requirement, but I don't want to come across as changing my mind too much.
Sure.
I'm good.
Jim?
I'm good.
So I gave you all of this paper, and basically my suggestion is that multi-family requirements for parking, 2 spaces per unit plus additional 10% per guest. Any other building to acquire the correct number of spaces for the use, no exceptions. Example, 60 units equal 120 spaces plus additional 12. My thoughts on this are, as we're looking at the lumber company property, and we're looking at the Eman Center property, and these people are just trying to get away with 1.5 spaces, and this and that, and then if they have a birthday party, somebody has a birthday party, there's no place for the guests to park, and it also kind of controls then how many units they can build. You know, the problem is that even with the Mosheris, you know, there's still a lot of one-bedroom, okay? I mean, they're charging so much, I guess it really doesn't matter. But when you start looking at the lumber company, the Eman Center, you're going to have these people coming in wanting to build a lot of cheaper units, and this way it kind of forces them to drop down their number of units and build 2-bedroom or stuff like that. I don't know what anybody else's opinion is on that, but I just think this is something that should be done, and that there's no exceptions that even in the a PUD, it can't be changed.
So is this just a suggestion at this point for us as a guideline, or that we put it into the project?
Yeah, I think it should be put in, whether it's a PUD or not a PUD. Even if you don't have a PUD, you're still required those spaces.
I kind of agree that we need to set a solid standard on this parking, because we're going to have some parking problems. I mean, there's 28 one-bedroom units in this thing, and then you got your 2 and 3s. That's going to generate some serious cars, and not all of them are going to be able to park in the garage.
I also don't want the boat launch landing thing outside, that would be a mess.
That's the first person that goes in there is going to scrape their vehicles all up, they're going to hit the tree. I mean, even,
Yeah, we can't.
No, it's
Not
not
enough
old.
point.
yeah, but I mean, you got to hit that tree in front to be able to back into it.
No, the garage door has to be open. You pull in the garage and then you back.
There might be a design change they could do, though, that would accommodate that.
Possibly.
I-
But, you also have to think, people are
I
coming
think
to the
it's
lake.
nice, but I don't even think we need it.
Yeah, I don't want to need more access to the lake. So do you want to add his suggestion to as an agenda item at a future meeting or something?
Yes, I think it should be.
I think that would be good. I think we should address it, because if you got,
Oh, no, we need to address it.
exactly.
You want
You need
to
to
submit Joe a note? You want to submit that to Joe?
There's a procedure, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
There's a procedure to submit a agenda request item and follow through the process.
All right.
You
Check
might want
with
to
Mr.
get
Young.
with Sue.
I'll just leave it with the secretary. This is Joe's copy, so.
Okay.
We have a form?
There is
Should have a form for
There's
it?
like a form. There is a form.
Okay, thank you. My comment, since it's the next meeting, July 5th, I will not be here. I have a work commitment.
I will not be here.
That's going to be a tough date.
Right, it's going to be a tough meeting, it's going to be a public hearing, and
I'm probably not going to be here as well, because July 4th, then there's the 5th, I'll be traveling.
so how about we look to postpone till August? Not that,
Well, can I make a comment here?
Sure,
I'm
yeah.
probably going to have my stuff ready for the July meeting. Can we postpone it to the next week or something like that?
Yeah, so I personally will only speak for myself. I have work commitments of the 5th and the 12th of July. So
The 18th would work well.
we could move it to the 19th, or I'm sorry,
Or the
Monday the 18th?
Yeah.
Monday the 18th?
Oh, no, Councilman Zimmer. Sorry.
Sorry, is that a council?
No, they are the week before and the week after. That is open Monday evening.
Okay, so is the pleasure to change our meeting to, and change,
So we need to change the motion. You have to do it by motion.
okay,
I'll support your motion.
Set the public hearing.
Monday, the 18th?
They just set a public hearing for July 5th.
Monday the 18th. But that, you also
Right.
just
That's what I'm saying. They
put a motion in on
need to do that.
that public hearing. So does that need to change?
Yeah, you have to rescind the one you made and then readopt it with the correct date.
Who made it?
Ken?
Ken.
Ken?
So Ken, do you want to rescind it and then change the date?
Just change the date on it. I know.
Because it was July 5th was the public hearing.
Yeah.
That's fine. I will rescind and change the date to July 18th.
No, we're going to rescind, wait,
Any support?
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll make a motion to move the July 5th Planning Commission meeting to July 18th.
Support.
Moved, supported. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Good. Motion
We
carries.
need to do a
I'll
motion
make a
about,
motion to adjourn.
we don't need to do a motion about trying to get discussion with regard.
He's got a form with it. All right, so move to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Thank you.
Just